Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Stella. I would like to specially thank everyone that is already a member of this family. I appreciate you guys so much. So in today's video, we're going to be drafting, cutting and sewing this skirt and blouse, but this video is going to be centered more on the blouse. All right, so I have also gone ahead to draft my full scale block, and we're going to be altering this in this video. All right, if you're just coming across my video for the first time, kindly subscribe to my channel. Okay, so let's jump right into the video. Now here are the materials that we're working with. I'll be making use of this African print fabric, and we'll be making use of this zip as well, and of course our bra cup, and we'll make use of lining as well, and I will be using interfacing also, just to give the fabric a little bit of stability. Okay, now that we have the materials out of the way, let's jump right into the alteration of the pattern. And I went ahead to draft a full scale basic bodice block, and I altered it to an armhole princess dart, both for the front and the back. Now let's start our alteration from the front. So we're going to be making a Queen Anne neckline, and the width of the neckline that I want is 3.5 inches. Okay, so this is the width of the shoulder that I want. Now I would like to introduce us to a new method, and it's simply just a way of ensuring that your cleavage is fully covered. So I'll go ahead and measure from the bust point line to the under bust, and I'll transfer that measurement upwards. So what I got there is 3.5 inches, but I'll place my tape from the bust point line and I'll mark 3 inches. Okay, now I'll go ahead and mark this in a circular way. Like I mentioned earlier, this is simply a guide so that I will know when her cleavage becomes exposed as I alter this pattern. All right, so this is just what it is and nothing more. All right, so I had earlier marked her shoulder width of 3.5 inches. That's how wide I want the shoulder to be when I'm done with the outfit. Now I'll go ahead and mark her neckline depth, and the depth that I want to make use of is 5 inches. But remember that I only I used our standard 3x3 inches when I was drafting this pattern. So I simply went down from the 3 inches neck depth to 5 inches. All right, now for the width, I'll make use of her bust span of 4 inches. Okay, so this is it. Now I'll go ahead and connect this. So we're connecting from the 3.5 inches that we marked on the shoulder downwards to her bust span of 4 inches that we have there, and I'll proceed to highlight this. Now note that the length of this line is 6 inches. This is if you would like to replicate exactly what I'm doing. Now let's move over to the tightening of the neckline. So to tighten your neckline, I'll draw a straight line that will run from the neckline depth to the bust point. So I'll draw a straight line that will run from the neckline depth to the bust point line, and this is it. Now I'll go away from this line by half an inch, 0.5 inch, and I'll connect it back to the bust point. Now this is simply a method of tightening the neckline. Okay, so I'm simply just drawing a dart on the neckline. All right, and we're going to be closing this line. Now I know the question that will be running in your mind now. This is not going to affect the length of your outfit or the fitting. Instead, it's going to give you that perfect neckline without any form of gaping at all. Okay, so remember, this is the way it was. So I'm simply raising the pattern paper along that line. Okay, and I'm resting it on the second leg. All right, so this is it. Now I'll come in with my paper tape, and I'm going to close this dart line permanently. Remember that this is a Queen Anne neckline, and the moment you're done with this outfit, you will not have any other opportunity to tighten the neckline. So you need to do all your tightenings on your pattern paper now. Okay, so this is it. I will come in with my curve ruler, and we're going to connect our neckline. Yeah. And this is it. So we have our perfect Queen Anne illusion neckline. Okay, now we'll go ahead and tighten the shoulder by 0.5 inch. So from the shoulder, I'll come down by 0.5 inch, and I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip using a straight line. So we're not going to be making use of that tiny space on top anymore. And this is it. Our neckline is fully tightened. All right, this is a perfect neckline. It's going to sit perfectly well on you. Now, a quick recap of what I did. So from the shoulder, I came down by 6 inches and I connected to the neckline depth of 5 inches. Remember, I originally drafted a 3 by 3 inches neckline and I came down further by 5 inches and I connected. And this is it for the front. Now let's move over to the back. The first thing we're marking is the shoulder width. Remember, on the front, we marked our shoulder width to be 3.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark it on the back as well, 3.5 inches. Now the depth of the neckline on the back is 7.5 inches. I want it to be a V neckline on the back. Okay, but it's going to be slightly curved. So I'll go ahead and connect it, and here we have it. So I'll proceed to separate the two patterns so that we can make further alteration. And here we have it. I'll keep the back aside so that we can finish up our alterations on the front. Now the first thing we're doing on the front is to go ahead and extend my underbust line to touch the hem. Okay, so I'm simply connecting my underbust line downwards. I'll repeat the same thing on this other side as well. And here we have it. Now I'll go ahead and shape the hem of the blouse. So from the side, I'll come up by 1 inch and I'll connect it to the center. Now note that the higher you go on your side, the shorter your blouse. Okay, so this is it. Now we're not going to be making use of this area I just shaded, and I'll proceed to cut out. So I'll cut to the bust point line and I will stop there so that we can close the bust dart. And remember, to close your bust dart is still the same process. You raise your pattern paper along your marked dart line and you rest it on the bust point line. Now I'll come in with my paper tape and I'm going to close the bust dart permanently. Okay, this is it. I'll move over to reshape the bust point. And like I always say, reshaping your bust point is not compulsory. I always do this if I notice that the bust point area is looking pointy. Okay, so this is it. I have reshaped it and it's perfect in my eyes. Okay, so I'll go ahead and connect the side front as well. And this is it. We are done with the front. So I'll proceed to cut this out. Now, I would like to specially appreciate everyone also that is already a member of this family. Thank you guys so much. And if you're just coming across my video for the first time, kindly subscribe to the channel and become a part of this family. And here we have it. The front is ready. Now I'll keep the front aside and we'll move over to the back. So here's the back. The first thing we're doing to the back is to tighten the neckline. And remember, to tighten your back neckline, I will make use of 0.25. So I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip and here we have it. Now I'll go ahead and shape the hem of the back as well. Remember, on the front, we came up by 1 inch. I'll do the same thing on the back. And I'll use my curve ruler to connect it back to the hem of the blouse. And this is it. I'm done with the shaping of the hem. All right. And I'll proceed to extend my dart, my waist dart, to touch the hem line. Now I'll go ahead and cut this out. I'll go ahead and label this pattern before I finish up with my cutting. So here's my center back line. Okay, now I'll proceed with my cutting. So as usual, we're going to blend the side back, and you know the method. I'm going to use a straight line to just connect that sharp point and I will cut it off. So it's that simple. Now, if you don't cut this off, that area is going to bulge on your final outfit. And here we have it. Now I'll proceed to label the side back. So this is it for the back. And our pattern set is ready. So the front and the back is ready. Now I'll proceed to transfer this to the fabric, and I will need to notch all the points. And by all the points, I mean the underbust length and the waist length. And here we have it. I've gone ahead to transfer all our patterns to the fabric. All right, so we're going to look at it one after the other. Now here's the center front piece. I have transferred it and I added all my allowances. And here's the side front piece as well. I went ahead to iron down my interfacing on both the fashion fabric and the lining, and I added 2 inches side seam allowance. This is it for the front. Now let's look at the back. So here's the center back and this is the side back. So it's the same thing. I have my 1 inch zip allowance added and I have my 1/2 inch added all round, including the hemline. And for the side back, it's the same thing. I have my 2 inches side seam allowance added. Now, before we jump right into the joining, we will need to cut an additional flare. Okay, so here is the lining part. And I went ahead to join it just so that we can have a clearer picture of what we're trying to achieve. So this is the back piece. I have it joined and you can see that flare in between the side back and the center back. So I did the same thing on the front as well. Now we'll proceed to cut out this flare, all right, and I'll walk us through the process. But to do that first, you will come in with any of your pieces. Okay, so this is the side back piece and we're going to go ahead and measure from where you want the flare to start. So from that point to the hemline is 8 inches. Now take note that I went down from her actual waist length by 1 inch, all right, and I measured down to the hem. And let's also measure the side front as well. So remember, from the waist length I came down by 1 inch. And I'll go ahead and measure. Now what I have there is 8 inches. So to cut your flare, you come in with a plain pattern paper and you go ahead and fold it this way. So I'd like us to take note of 2 things. One is that the extent of your folding depends on how wide you want the width of the flare to be. Okay, so I'll place my tape from the sharp point of the pattern paper and I will measure down to 8.5 inches. Remember, we measured 8 inches, but we're going to add 1/2 inch for joining. So here we have it. I have my 8.5 inches marked on the new pattern paper. Now I'll go ahead and highlight it so that we can see it better. Okay, and here we have it. So I want the actual width of the flare to be 6 inches. All right, but we're going to be adding extra 1 inch for joining. So that gives us a total of 7 inches. I'll go ahead and cut it out. And here we have it. And I'll proceed to transfer this to the fashion fabric and the lining. And this is it. I have transferred it to the fashion fabric. Okay, and I also iron down my interfacing on it. And this is very important because it will give that part more stability. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take off my pins and I will show us how to join it to the blouse. So this is it. Now remember, that part where you want the flare to start, you will need to notch it. So I'll go ahead and notch that part. And like I said, is 1 inch below her waistline. Okay, now you will come in with the cutout flare and I'll start my joining from the hemline. So I'll go ahead and highlight the part where the flare is going to start from. Okay, so I'll go ahead and sew using 1/2 inch from the hemline to this point that I just highlighted, and I'll come in with the center front piece as well. I'll also join it from the hemline to our mark there. All right, so it's actually a simple joining process and this is the easiest. You go ahead and bring your side front and your center front and you will need to notch where the flare is going to start, okay, or where it's going to end. Okay, and you go ahead and join the flare first, then you hold your fabric together and you continue the joining process just like you're joining your normal half length, okay, or your blouse. It's the same thing. Now let's take a look at the lining so that we can understand it better. So this is the lining. You can see I first joined the flare on the 2 sides and I continued it using a single stitch. So when you look at it, it's only a single stitch that you're seeing because where your first joining stops, that is where you're going to continue with the second part. So that is it for that joining. Now this is it. I have gone ahead to join all the flares and I pressed it open. I also attached my bra cup and I have done my shaping. So I'll go ahead and join the lining to lining and the fashion fabric to fashion fabric. Now let's look at the fashion fabric. So you can see I pressed all my stitches open. Okay, now, and I went ahead to join the rest of them. So it's the same thing. Now I'll proceed to join the fashion fabric to the fashion fabric and the lining to the lining. Afterwards, I'll use the lining to turn the neckline of the fashion fabric. And here we have it. I have it stitched. I have stitched round the neckline, and I have also stitched around the zip. Now we're going to be making use of a different method to fix our zip this time around. Okay, so I have everywhere stitched. The only opening that we have here now for turning is around the armhole. So I'll go ahead and notch all the points. As you can see, I have them notched already, so that when you turn, that area is going to lay flat. So I'll turn the blouse and I'll iron it. All right, and here we have it. The blouse is actually ready. Now I have a separate video on how to um draft, cut and attach this puff sleeve to the blouse, and I'll leave the link in the description box. This is actually it for the blouse. It's a lovely, straightforward, easy and simple blouse. Okay, now let me show us the skirt, because there's a beautiful skirt that will be going with this blouse. Okay, and this will also have a separate video so that we don't make this video too lengthy. This is a lovely skirt, and it has a lot of sewing techniques that you do not want to miss. Okay, it's fully concealed. The only joining on this skirt is just on the knee length. Just take a look at the inside. You can see how clean the stitches are. All right, let me not say too much. You will need to see the video to confirm more for yourself. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate everyone that has believed in this brand. Thank you, thank you. If you're just coming across this video for the first time, I appreciate you already. Kindly subscribe to the channel and turn on your notification bell, because I post lovely tutorials here and they are super detailed. So till we meet again in my next video. Bye.
Yeah.